Live from virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we bring forth racing fans one and all to the season finale for the first season of 2022 for the iRacing Stock Car Association ButtKicker Cup Series. Hello, one and all, and welcome to the Hooters 200 at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We welcome everybody to what should be an exciting final race with just 100 laps at tonight's race, as opposed to the usual 134 that we've been used to seeing in recent months here, Brian. So I have a feeling this could be in for a rather interesting race. It'll be the Hooters 250 that isn't quite Hooters 250.
Yeah, definitely going to be exciting to see this season wrapped up. I mean, even though we have, already kind of crowned a champion here, I'm definitely excited to see, who's going to get second. It's pretty close in the race for that. So I think that's going to be really the one to watch. I think it's Kenny Powell and Chris D. Johnson who are pretty close in that battle for second. So I'm excited to see how this all plays out. A lot of fast cars out here, not a lot of spread when it comes to lap times in practice. Curious to see how it goes down in qualifying and during the race. I mean, I think setup's going to be very important here, but it's going to be a lot of flat-out racing too, Nolan.
Going to be a lot of flat-out racing over the course of the night, but even that might not last too long. We saw at Auto Club just how volatile these cars can be on corner exits. So out of turn number 2, I think is going to be one of the big trouble spots so far that drivers are going to definitely have to keep an eye on for tonight. And obviously, you still got your 2 stages at the ends of laps 25 and 50. So right at the quarter and the halfway marks in this race. So I think one of the bigger stories coming into tonight is the fact that Clayton Hoffman, current points leader, not present in this final race, but obviously we were talking about this at the top of the just before the top of the broadcast here, Brian. That doesn't matter for Hoffman because he is good for the championship by just 3 points, even if he doesn't make a start.
Yeah, definitely. You have to feel some type of, relaxation, relief when you already have a championship locked up and you don't even have to show up for the final race. He's probably cool in his recliner, laid back and sipping on something. Probably going to watch the broadcast here tonight. But definitely going to be interesting to see. And like you mentioned, being shortened to 100 laps, I mean, that of course, you said 25 is the first stage, 50 the second stage. From what I've heard, 48 is about the fuel run. I'm curious, Nolan, if we have a green run in that final stage, could some guys make it?
We could very well be seeing a couple of drivers short by just a couple of laps. Now, that being said, it is worth noting that the second stage, or the third stage, will be officially starting under green flag conditions, about 3 laps, which would make it about 47 to go to the end of the race, which theoretically then, Brian, does pose the question where if you can save enough fuel under the stage 2 caution, you might be able to make it to the end. But boy, it would be close.
Yeah, these guys are definitely going to be finishing under vapors for sure, but I think that they can make it. I mean, I think it's definitely with them the realm of possibility. I think if a person does come out here and lead a lot of laps in that final stage, then they might be at a little bit of a more of a disadvantage because as we've seen so many times before, that clean air really does turn up the fuel consumption.
Well, I mean, look at guys like Jeffrey Souza, and I think it was the Worldwide Technology Raceway where he defied all odds by going with no pit stops all the way to the end of the race in stage number 3 when we all thought it would be impossible. So the fact remains that it is definitely a serious possibility that we cannot rule out in tonight's race. It is going to be a bit of a last dash for the end of this race. Now, obviously, the points championship might be settled on out. It is still looking close for those final podium spots on the points board, with 3rd and 4th, Mark Padgett, Chris Johnson entering this race tied for 3rd.
Wow, that is definitely interesting. And no wonder, I mean, considering Mark Padgett came off with that excellent, super exciting finish, last week. I mean, man, that was 3 wide races there at its finest last week at Auto Club, and I might see the same thing here tonight.
Might see the same thing tonight, indeed. Qualifying is getting set to draw to a close. So with that, it is time for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can't you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Race fans, it is time for those most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines!
And with the national anthem now complete, let's go through your 20-car grid over the course of tonight's race. It'll be Josh Schaffner on a pole position with Mark Padgett lining it up beside, Matt DeCiani lining it up beside him on the front row. It's Kenny Powell to sit in third place with Don Avery in fourth. Corey Cook is down in fifth with the likes of James Oxford in sixth. Kendall LeVron is going to be in seventh on road number 4. He is starting beside Mark Sanchez. Greg Wachinski is going to be in ninth place with Greg Bartlett in 10th.
11th place is going to be John Mullins. 12th place, R.J. Root. 13th place is going to be Mark Padgett, last week's winner. 14th, Al Kozlowski. 15th, Wayne Grossi. 16th is going to be Paul Olson. 17th, Derek Jacobs. 18th, Randy Drumhiller. 19th, Andrew Layton. 20th, Robert Pattengale. And I'm excited to see what Andrew Layton can do. I know he was really quick in practice.
Let's talk a little bit more about how these championship standings are going to shake up coming into tonight's race. Obviously, Hoffman is clear back to Kenny Powell by 78 points, but even Kenny Powell is not too safe in the run-up for those points. He is still within range that Mark Padgett could overtake him if he has misfortunes tonight. There's about 21 points separate those two drivers. We also talked about how Padgett and Johnson are tied for third. At that point, it's another 36 points back, back to Josh Schaffner to round out the top 5. And from there, it's a pretty big divide, right? I mean, you got about a 20-point gap, another 30, and then it starts to get really close. I mean, you look towards the likes of 7th place in the point standings. From 7th on back to 11th, all separated by just 8 points. Al Kozlowski is the 7th, 162 back with 257 points. Thomas O'Hara's got 254. Jeffrey Sousa's got 252. And Corey Cook has just 251.
Yeah, and I'd like to even take it back a little bit further. We're talking about second place Kenny Powell right now. We were talking about Chris Johnson and Mark Padgett being tied for third. Well, Chris Johnson not in the field, so Mark Padgett should easily be able to secure third. And I would want to say, I mean, I think Kenny Powell's got a little bit of a hot hand going right now. He just recently attained 4,000 I rating and won second place in an NIS last night and fourth overall in NIS. So I think he's got the hot hand here at Vegas.
And obviously now we've got the Super Cup Series going as well, so we can now look forward to those championship standings as well. Obviously, it is the top 16 get into the playoffs at the end of the regular season, which started up 2 weeks ago at the Daytona International Speedway for the ButtKicker 250. And currently, there are 2 drivers locked into playoff contention. Those drivers are Mark Padgett and Chris Johnson, locked in on race wins. And it is still tied for the final cutoff spot. That is between Wayne Grossi and Randy Drumhiller. But obviously, you've only got a 71-point divide from top to bottom so far in the entire Super Cup Series standings field. And you have to also consider that with that there's 60 points up for grabs in any given race, there is still going to be some wild swings in that championship in the next coming months.
100%. There's going to be some wild championship swings just tonight, I do believe, as they roll off the grid here. Pace car lights are off, getting set to go green here, and I think this is going to be exciting. I mean, this is one of those tracks. You mentioned it too, about the loose conditions. I think we're going to see some of that from like we did at Auto Club. So curious to see how these cars are going to be handling it, if these guys have put in enough time, in the pack and things like that. I mean, you can never prepare for how the car is going to actually handle in traffic unless you've been doing races all week. But then again, I mean, the track conditions here tonight might be different than what we've seen in the officials.
Talked about how this race was shortened. It was supposed to be 134 laps, but obviously slight error in the session making means that we are now having just a 100-lap race, making it 150 miles as opposed to 200 miles that this race was supposed to be earlier. That could mean we could see a little bit more wild, fast-paced action in stage number 3 that we're more used to, as drivers are not going to have as much time to settle on in. James Oxford and Greg Bartlett are both in pit road. They'll be starting this race from pit road. So with everybody else lined up and ready to go, Brian, your final thoughts here as we get set to take the green.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting call for those guys to start from pit road. They must be thinking that caution is going to happen, but that's definitely, I don't know if I agree with that call for sure, as the pace car gets set to go down pit road.
Pace car is down and in. That leaves it in the hands of Josh Schaffner and his Premier Racing setup shop machine. So we get set to take this field to the green flag. It's time to go racing one more time in the first season of 2022. The Charles Shaw 150 is underway.
And already Josh Schaffner having a great restart, really able to separate himself from these other guys. But knowing how strong the draft is at these 1.5 miles, I think that these guys are going to be able to pull right back up alongside of him.
Try to pull up right alongside, and you can already see a couple of drivers flirting with the outside wall. Looking at Don Avery trying to rip the Larson line. RJ Root and Mark Sanchez both going to go at it down the front straightaway this time by. As you see RJ Root up on the top shelf, and up in front, Al Kozlowski trying to find the low side on Kendall LeBron, and that was a close shave. But Al Kozlowski makes the move stick, and we're not going to have a wreck this early on. He tried to stick the nose in there. LeBron gave him room, but at that point, Kozlowski had to yield to avoid checking it up too much, where he would have pushed up the track and into the wall.
Yeah, that definitely would not be a good thing to do, especially at a track like this. You know, aero is so important. You know, that you cannot damage that race car. The 16 getting another run up on the top side. I mean, that high side seems like it's got a lot of strength to it right now. You're able to hold so much more momentum. And it looks like Kendall not going to be able to get clear as he's trying to draft his way up to Corey Cook. And Al Kozlowski kind of left hanging out in no man's land. Everybody else seems to be going to the top lane.
Everybody slowly filtering through left, high, and center at the time being. You got DeCiani looking to rip the top shelf from Kenny Powell, as well as this. You still watch this double pile pack just in behind here with RJ Rue, Wachinski, Kozlowski, and LeBron all at the same time. So it is side-by-side action so far, all the way up and down throughout this field, up until about 19th, 20th place, which is where Auction and Bartlett both sit. But up in front, these battles going to continue to rage on right down, no doubt, to that green checkered flag at the end of these stages.
Oh, yeah, 100%. These guys are going to be racing hard this whole time. And you see Kenny Powell still racing side-by-side with Matt DeCiani, just not able to edge out. I think that really the name of the game here tonight is all going to be about, you know, trying to save your equipment and maybe get some help from some of your friends out there, considering, you know, if you know, even at a track like this with the 670 horsepower, help is still going to be very important.
Pretty clean start overall, all things considered. You still got everybody looking to battle hard with each other up in the front end of the mix here. You got DeCiani and Kenny Powell having a good time of it, running up there for second place. It's all nice and civilized. First time it single files out all the way through the field, but only just, Corey Cook slipping backwards, and he got all sorts of loose. Got a big tank slapper going through the middle of 1 and 2. That caused him to lose 2 spots in one move to Kendall LeBron, as well as Don Avery. But now he's looking set to already regain lost ground and charge it back around the high side.
Yeah, that kind of checked up RJ Root quite a bit, too, because, I mean, those guys probably thought he was going to be slowed down quite a bit. But it looks like RJ Root getting a huge run on the high side of Al Kozlowski. Look at Corey Cook still having handling conditions. He's going to definitely be looking to make some adjustments when that stage break comes.
Talk about how much cold tires played a factor of, oh boy, 3 wide with Kozlowski at the bottom. LeBron really trying to pinch at Wachinski. That had debatable results there as to whether that was a success or not. But we talk about how much cold tires has to do with these drivers potentially getting loose. We saw that at Auto Club. It's the same case tonight. 82 degrees Fahrenheit. It is not the warmest of tracks out there, which could mean that's why we're seeing a couple of these guys like Corey Cook having those handling problems. They're probably more outfitted for a hotter track surface.
Yeah, it could very well be the case. I mean, that's definitely a good point as you see him trying to run the top. Getting loose again. He's going to lose it. He's down on the apron. Corey Cook is having all sorts of problems here tonight as he's going to fall back down onto the apron and lose a ton of spots. He's back to 14th, now 15th.
Did a good job of wrestling that car back under control. So we bomb it back down into turns 1 and 2, and you'll look up to RJ Root and Greg Wachinski still going side by side. GNG versus one of those edge cars, and Root doing a good job on holding the bottom side, but Wachinski was just too strong on the top shelf. And now here comes Mark Padgett now looking to charge at the inside in his Triad 02 Chevrolet.
Well, I mean, Mark Padgett last week came out of nowhere. He was one of those guys that we were not expecting to be able to have that kind of race, and it looks like he's going to try to follow it up. But getting a little bit loose on the exit there gives RJ Root a good run on exit. But definitely a lot of these guys having some handling conditions. You can see that already. I expect these crew chiefs are going to be so busy trying to lay in some changes on these race cars.
Also loose through 1 and 2 the last time by was Al Kozlowski. You can see all of a sudden down 2 spots where he was at the top of the lap. He's trying to keep from going down further spots, but I think he doesn't have to worry, as it looks like Edge and Triad are both too busy trying to duke it out with each other. Those two different team outfits there, with Mark Padgett still holding the 9th position on the bottom side. Andrew Layton has come down into pit road. He's the first driver to make a pit stop on the course of the night, and it does look as though this is a potential scheduled pit stop, and I have to wonder, did he have the wrong fuel number tagged into that car? We, again, also saw that at Auto Club, I believe, last week, so the possibility is certainly there, and it looks like he's going to be throwing in the towel.
Oh, my word, that is just awful to see them throwing the towel that early. He's had so much pace during practice, but that's just unfortunate. And we see Kenny Powell now. He's starting to drop back a little bit here as we see Don Avery really powering around underneath Matt DeCiani, trying to take away second. Still side by side.
He's got Avery on the bottom side, and Kenny Powell is still just waiting in the wings. That's a big tank slam for DeCiani. DeCiani will chase his elite car up the hill, but manages to bring that number 1 Chevy back under control. He'll lose out spots, yes, to LeBron and Wachinski, but still has a very clean car, and that is important early on in Vegas.
I think that's one thing we've been seeing a lot with this next-gen car. You know, it's got the lower profile tires. You know, whenever you're getting loose, you don't really necessarily know it until it's almost too late. Luckily, these guys have been able to save these machines. I mean, could have definitely turned out worse for them for sure. As Don Avery down on the apron, almost having some contact there with Kenny Powell.
Got a bit loose again, and Kenny Powell chases up the hill, and look at LeBron, who skirted to the inside, and he'll take up the 2nd position. Now Wachinski's trying to go up to 3rd, push it out, but he's not clear. Don Avery still holds the top shelf in his Susan Media number 11 Toyota Camry. Look at Powell on the low side, trying to charge with it as he goes 3 wide into turn number 1. Oh, Avery slips up now, and he's going to glance off the outside wall. But no harm, no foul. A little bit of a scuff on the right rear quarter panel. But apart from that, he still has a clean car underneath him.
Yeah, definitely a good thing that he didn't hit it harder than he did, for sure. Just a little scrape, for sure. And, you know, just let that wall know you're there. But definitely some great racing going on so far. And I think that Josh Schaffner really is benefiting right now from the clean air. I think the clean air seems to be the main thing that is helping his handling. Everybody else, being in the dirty air, all this turbulent, you know, air moving around is really affecting these cars, Nolan.
He's still got guys like Don Avery that are slowly slipping backwards as well throughout this field. Some people have had such good starts to this race, and already it has gone oh so wrong for a good number of the drivers in this field. Most notably for Corey Cook, who has lost 10 positions since the start of this race. We've also got guys like Don Avery who are down 4. DeCiani's down 4. Other drivers like Kendall LeBron and Greg Wachinski clearly have cars more outfitted for race style. Al Kozlowski as well. Kozlowski +9 for where he started all the way back in 14th.
I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said earlier about these guys. I feel like they came into this race maybe a little unprepared, maybe prepared for a different type of racing conditions, and I think some of the guys out here maybe were able to lay some adjustments in before the race, and the ones we're seeing really doing well right now could be those guys.
And it's getting tight back here as well. Look at Wayne Grossi trying to keep John Mullins, Paul Olsen, Randy Drumheller, and Mark Sanchez all at bay. This is starting to really pick up out in the back portion of this field. Mark Sanchez sneaks to the inside line of Randy Drumheller, and he'll possibly take that 13th spot away. Lucky number 13 here in Vegas, and he'll clear for that one out of turn number 4. Just up the road, you got Paul Olsen and John Mullins once again slipping and dicing amongst themselves. And Mullins is going to let Olsen take that one, which was the fight for 11th position here. We're already coming towards the end of stage number 1 here. There's only going to be 6 laps to go at the line. This race just flying by.
100%, definitely flying by, and that is an interesting place in the racetrack to watch too. Wayne Grossi and Randy Drumheller, we talked about it earlier, they're very close in points, so that's another one to keep an eye on as we see Lots of battling still going on up front here is Al Kozlowski right now in fourth, trying to hold off Kenny Powell. Kenny Powell, who has fallen off from his third place starting position, I should say, trying to work his way back forward as Kendall LeVron, I do believe, trying to battle with Greg Wychinski. Greg Wychinski coming out on top in that battle.
So that'll put Wychinski up to second place. LeVron slips back to third, but you can see LeVron looking to possibly want to make a charge into turn number one, but he's just not close enough to be able to realistically have a go at it. 5 to go in stage number one. Look at LeVron having a scramble as Wychinski had to back off to avoid hitting the wall and came back down, almost took LeVron out with him. But so far, a good run throughout this group in here. And I think that now the tires are at the temperature, and now the tire wear is starting to kick in as well. We're starting to see this more processional racing that we're so used to seeing at these cookie-cutter racetracks. This making overtakes is just such a difficult thing to do. DeCiani gets by Kenny Powell, and RJ Root looks like has had a problem. He is no longer on the racing surface, and as I understand it, that is not, I think, as a result of any crash, technical failures for RJ Root.
That is unfortunate. You hate to see that whenever you have a throughput error or something like that that kicks you out of the race. Man, that is just terribly unfortunate. Just hate to see that. As we see the one of Matt DeCiani and Mark Paget still are dueling it out right now. Side-by-side racing. Looks like Mark Paget is going to work his way up to sixth. He is on track to really maximize his points. I mean, this is another place really interesting to watch here as we see Kenny Powell. I mean, Mark Paget pretty close in points. Could see maybe a switcheroo here with Mark Paget going up to second in the championship standings.
Pit road is closed this time by with 2 laps to go in stage number one. You can see Mark Paget still trying to hold the top side from Matt DeCiani, trying to make sure that DeCiani cannot get a run to make any kind of serious charge over Mark Paget. So far, executing that brilliantly. Just in behind, you can see Paul Olso, Wayne Grossi battling side by side for the final stage points on the day as we start the last trip around to stage one, as Olsen's going to scrape up against the outside wall.
Yeah, it seems like Kendall LeBron's starting to fall off a little bit here as we see Al Kozlowski really starting to chase him down. Going to challenge for third here, I do believe. And Al Kozlowski probably going to be doing everything he can to try to get this stage points. As I know you said earlier, too, that he's very close when it comes to the championship standings. Not exactly sure. I think it was seventh, you said, right?
Indeed, I think that was the case for him as Schaffner is out of turn number 4. He'll take the victory here for stage number 1 on the day. First quarter of this race already in the books.
Excellent job from Josh Schaffner. Textbook, showing how that clean air really is going to be very, very, very useful. One thing I do have concerns about, though, with Josh Schaffner is if he does get in dirty air at some point in this race, will he be used to it? Will his car handle like it's handling now?
Only one way to figure that out, and that is going to see, will he be going down spots when we get around the yellow flag pit stops under this caution period. We'll take a quick step away. We'll be back with those green flag stops in just a moment.
ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at thebuttkicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.
Yellow flag stops currently underway from Las Vegas, and it is going to be none other than Josh Schaffner, unsurprisingly, to lead them down. Everybody is in pit road this time by. We'll see if Schaffner will also be able to lead them out of pit road. Some news, as I understand, from Andrew Layton, loaded his Auto Club setup instead of the his Las Vegas setup. So it would seem that it's not just going to be the people that set up the races who have Auto Club on the mind. Some of the drivers still wish we were over back at Auto Club as well. Schaffner will be the first driver out of pit road as well.
Yeah, so he's going to be a little bit safer when it comes to, like we were discussing earlier, about the clean air. That's one thing that really these guys always have to keep in mind. You see it time and time again where a car is just so fast up front, but as soon as he gets behind someone, it could definitely play a role here. I do believe Greg Wychinski did come out in second, so looks like Kendall LeBron coming out in third. So not much change in the running order here.
So we'll see if we can't potentially dial up your Stage 1 winner on the night. Josh Schaffner is with us now, and I have to say, Josh, you kind of walked away with Stage 1 there, made it look easy. Do you plan to do a repeat here for Stage 2?
Well, I'd sure like to. Track position is good to have here in clean air, and just not having to go through 1 and 2 side by side or trying to pick lanes. And hopefully, we can stay up front here. I think some faster guys have worked through the field, and stage 2 could look a little bit different. But really happy with how stage 1 went, and how the Plenish Soybeans Pioneer, Smith Farms, Chevy Camaro is fast tonight.
So talk to us about how this track is in particular. It's obviously a pretty quick track, one of the faster model has to go to on the schedule, and that, of course, means that dirty air could potentially be a bigger talking point over the course of the night. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is, and it's a track that you got to give and take on each end of the speedway. I think if you talk to the drivers this week, it's trying to be tight enough through 1 and 2, but not getting too tight in 3 and 4, and listen to the chatter. There's some of that taking place tonight, trying to find that balance. It's a tricky speedway, and then once you get side by side in the corners of the cars, your car can act really different. And thankfully, I did get a few laps in this week and kind of understood how the air works around the other cars in traffic. But my goal tonight is to keep that Chevy nose in clean air all night if we can.
Well, fingers crossed that we'll be talking to you potentially at the end of the night as well, and hopefully from victory lane. Well, Josh, it was a pleasure to have you once again up here in the booth with us. Before I let you go, anybody you haven't shouted out yet that you'd like to give a shout to now?
Just Mirror Seat Solutions. They help us out every week. Randy's birthday tonight. I'm sure he's watching, but just a shout out to those guys.
Thank you, Josh, for taking the time to join us up here in the booth. Best of luck in Stage 2.
Thanks, everyone.
That was Josh Schaffner, your Stage 1 winner on the course of the night. Stage 2 about to get underway, and it is looking like, Brian, it is only going to be a 20-lap run as opposed to a 25-lap run that was Stage 1. And I have this to say, I would be a little bit more nervous if I was Josh, especially with guys like Wychinski and LeBron right on his heels now.
Yeah, I definitely think he should be a little bit nervous considering, these guys are going to have a shorter run. Maybe you'll be able to abuse the tires a little bit more. So some guys might be, trying to take that clean air away from him, especially early. I think that the most valuable time to try to take this lead is going to be early here. So I expect to see Wychinski. I expect to see Kendall LeBron. These guys be aggressive, try to take this away from him. We'll have to see how that all plays out. Could we have some fireworks here prematurely? We'll have to wait and see.
We have to consider the first 3 drivers behind Schaffner have all been on the rise so far over the course of the night. I mean, Greg Wychinski +7 for where he started today. LeBron's +4. Kozlowski is +10. So I would say that there are some serious threats right behind Schaffner for this second stage. And at the moment, Schaffner and John Mullins, interestingly enough, are the only 2 drivers that, according to what we got here at least, have not moved at all from where this race has started. But even out of those, Schaffner's the only one that hasn't dropped any positions or even gained any. It's hard to gain any, though, when you're up in first place. Pace cars down to pit road. 20 laps for stage number 2, which will come to a close at halfway as we're back to green.
Yeah, Josh Schaffner seems like he is just mastering the catching these guys sleeping. I think that's what's going to really help him, keep that clean air as he keeps these guys side by side behind him. I mean, that's another very good strategy you could try to play here. The Schaffner could switch between the lanes, try to keep them side by side behind him. That way he's maybe not as under as much pressure here as Kendall LeBron really putting in some pressure on Greg Wychinski. Not able to get there, though. I think Wychinski does edge out in front.
And all the while, you still got Kozlowski as well, just tucked in the wings, trying to see if he can have a run. But look at Kenny Powell steaming by around the high side of his GMG teammates. And that will put the number 24 Toyota Camry up in a 4th place. Oh, sliding out! Look out as he clips the apron. But he'll wash up, and get himself all sorted with no actual wreck. Kozlowski breezes through, though, and Don Avery tried to do the same, but he's going to be trapped side by side now on the top shelf through 3 and 4.
Yeah, what a save there from Kenny Powell. That could have turned out bad for him. He could have lost a lot of positions there, but, you know, you kind of warned about it earlier about how those fresh tires really, you know, that's something you're going to have to keep an eye on, especially with the track conditions the way they are. I mean, these guys seem like they're getting very loose. As we see someone losing it there. Who's that?
It's LeVron. Kendall LeVron out of 3rd place.
And he lost a bunch of spots out of that. He's back to 12th right now.
All the work that LeVron did in stage 1 just gone in a puff of smoke, quite literally, as a result of that one. And I want to point out as well that 3rd on back have lost the draft of the top 2, which are still about a quarter of a second separated from each other. You can see Paul Olsen looking to make up some more stage points, trying to look high on Mark Paget through 1 and 2. He carried that momentum around off of corner exit, and so far, Olsen, I would say, doing a fine job on making sure that he can, if not at least overtake these guys, at the very least stick with them, right? He is +1 from where he started in stage number 2 here. So this is a good run so far for Paul Olsen, a driver who we don't see scoring some major points all that often, but he's looking set to start a new trend here tonight.
Oh, yeah, definitely trying to just to get some good finishes here. Kenny Powell, once again, having some problems. He's down on the bottom. He's losing a ton of spots right now. Going to be falling out of the top 10. So a lot of guys are really, I think they have too much confidence in their tires here, Nolan.
I think that is one important thing to note about this car, right, is that's one of the things that a lot of these drivers have been kind of complaining about with this new car, is there's not a whole lot of feedback in the wheels. So when it goes, and there's almost no warning for it. That's what makes it so difficult to wrangle these cars under control to the point where you often won't even realize that you're losing it until it's just about too late to realistically do anything about it. So it's been pretty impressive that we haven't seen anybody fully going around yet, or at least overcorrecting to the outside wall like we saw be a very huge problem at Auto Club just a week prior.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing I'm surprised we haven't seen is overcorrection. Usually with a car like this, it is so hard to tell when it's getting loose. I mean, you definitely, your adrenaline's going. You want to overcorrect that race car. Definitely want to shout out Wayne Grossi, though. He's been moving up through this field quite a bit here. But you see Kendall LeBron trying to work his way back up through the field here. He has gotten himself up to 8th and is now trying to challenge Wayne Grossi.
LeBron trying to bring the challenge to the Pennzoil number 7 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1. And that Asus Mustang just in behind is looking set to see if he can't maybe make up a bit more ground. And he's, I would imagine, trying to score a top 5 after he lost a top 3 with his mistake early in stage number 2 here. But he's going to have to hurry because we're already only 2 laps away this time by from halfway through stage 2. So that clock for LeBron to make something work is running out quickly.
Yeah, it definitely is. And shocked to see, some of the guys we got running up front right now. I mean, Greg Wachinski doing an excellent job. I mean, of course, we see Josh Schaffner is starting to separate once again to about a half a second lead. I've just been so impressed with Josh Schaffner, though. He has literally been the fastest man all night long. And he's such a humble guy, too. When you interview him, you never expect that he would be the one that would be so fast.
And you're looking up now to Greg Wachinski, who did a good job on staying within a quarter of a second of Josh Schaffner at the top of the stage, but has slowly slipped back. It's still close, about half a second, but that's not nearly close enough if you want to have a proper look and a realistic shot on going for a stage 1 win. So hopefully Wachinski will be able to kind of get back to it and go after Josh Schaffner. But so far, it looks like that is going to be a bit of a far cry. Schaffner looking set to try and go for a stage 2 victory, which will put him 1 step away from a full sweep at Las Vegas.
Yeah, what a performance that would be if he's able to do that. I mean, that last stage is going to be a little bit different, though. We see Don Avery kicking sideways a little bit as he's trying to work his way to Al Kozlowski. Al Kozlowski now pulling away as we saw Don Avery have that issue. And I think what we're seeing there is the closer these guys get to one another, you get closer and closer to that back bumper, you're seeing less and less downforce. And that downforce is very sorely needed here as we see Mark Paget now trying to challenge Don Avery.
You can see Mark Paget is going to get clear here. Don Avery going up to the top shelf, but I think he's like a bit too high and actually has to lift there, or would have scraped along the outside fence. And Matt DiCiani will have the door open wide for him. He'll sway through and take up a top 5 position, and no doubt that is what Kendall LeBron likes to see, just a little bit behind. But even LeBron struggling a little bit. I think he kind of shot off the tires a little bit when he had his major slide earlier on, because he was just passed up by Paul Olsen and is having a bit of a rough time trying to get back by him.
Yeah, and I think that also comes down to the air, too. And I think you're right. It's also compounded by the fact that he did burn those tires up. Probably trying to get the temperature out of those things was very hard to do at a racetrack such as this. I mean, you can't really slow down and let those tires cool off. You're pretty much going to be stuck with the way that they're going to be running for the rest of this stage. He's just going to have to hope he doesn't lose too much more positions.
Got a few other battles picking on up elsewhere throughout this field. I mean, even at the top or back end of this train, Corey Cook just worked his way past John Mullins, who is now under fire from Randy Drumhiller just behind. And he is Berkeley number 44 Mustang. And Mark Sanchez is going to go to the inside of Drumhiller now in his Camaro. But so far, looks like Randy Drumhiller will not be able to realistically compete, and I think he's going to be just slipping to the back here. Wanted to take this second stage early and see if he can maybe make something work in stage 3.
It's really interesting, too, as we see Mark Padgett up here in 4th place. Kenny Powell's all the way back in 16th now. He has lost so many positions because of that bad mistake there. This could really spell disaster for Kenny Powell's hopes of being in 2nd place in the championship.
Yeah, that it could. So we'll have to wait and see how this could work out for the likes of Kenny Powell. We'll check in, we'll keep tabs on that one. Obviously, Powell can't go for a full-on championship, but he can most certainly go and try to hold on to a 2nd place for the time being. Mark Padgett might be in front of him, but the way it sits at the moment, that gap is not closing in enough where Padgett would be able to break by him. Remember, it's a 35-point deficit. And under this first opening stage, that gap only reeled in 5 points.
Wow, that is surprising to see that didn't really do very much for Mark Padgett's chances here to try to take that 2nd spot. So lucky for Kenny Powell. That is very lucky for Kenny Powell. That
actually, sorry, it actually didn't even shrink at all. It extended by 1 point because Powell finished.
Paul Olsen getting loose. He's down on the apron. Sorry to interrupt you, Nolan.
No, that's totally fine. But yeah, I just checked the notes now, and Kenny Powell was 5th place in stage 1. Mark Padgett was 6th. So Powell actually extended the gap out. So it's now up to 36 points, the deficit now between Padgett and Powell for 2nd.
Yeah, that's definitely, we'll have to see how that, definitely going to be a hard hill to climb. I don't think it's even possible, to be honest with you now, that we've already finished one of these stages. Soon to finish the 2nd stage, we have soon to be 2 laps remaining. Man, and what a good save there for Paul Olsen. I thought he completely lost that machine there. But Kendall LeBron definitely was happy that that happened, as he was able to take that 8th spot away and try to work his way closer and closer to the field, or through the field.
Pit road is closed with 2 laps to go in stage number 2 from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and the Charles Shaw 150 in the final round of the first season of 2022 for the iRacing Stock Car Association ButtKicker Cup Series. As you watch Josh Schaffner continuing to just chug around, and it is business as usual up in front. Just another day in the office as Schaffner takes the white flag on stage 2. Padgett looking for the outside. He wants to go for a 3rd place on Kozlowski to kick off stage 2 as well.
And it looks like Matt DiCiani is going to be going with him, so that little bit of help might give him what it takes to get by Kozlowski. They're getting a huge run on the backstretch here. Looks like Mark Padgett is going to be able to get clear. I don't know, though. Al Kozlowski, he's trying to rebound here. It's going to be a side-by-side finish for the stage, I do believe. I think Mark Padgett's got it, though. And Matt DiCiani, I think, is going to get by Al Kozlowski here.
And with that, Schaffner takes the dub in stage number 2, and the caution flag will fly. Schaffner going after yet another clean sweep on the weekend. Time for yet another break. We'll be back in a few.
ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at TheButtKicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.
Back under the caution period, and yet more developing story in the point standing. Now, with these latest points calculations that I've done here under this brief break, assuming I've done all this correctly, it is now a 28-point deficit between Kenny Powell and Mark Patch for second place, which means that Kenny Powell has firmly locked down second place in the point standings.
Some other news here. Mark Paget winning the race off pit road between him and Greg Wychinski. He takes over second place. So even though he might not be able to get that second position in the point standings, he's definitely racing like he's going for a championship.
You're going to be trying to go for the going to go for at least a race win, if not for a championship. He's going to try to make sure that he can at least hold on to the third place in the point standings. As we are once again under the caution period. We already talked to Josh Schaffner once under the stage 1 caution. We'll see if we can't get a hold of Greg Wychinski here, the stage 2 runner-up here from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Greg, how's it going down there?
It's going good, Nolan. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine up here. Been enjoying watching the racing that we're seeing out there on track. It's been relatively tame considering what we saw at Auto Club 1 week ago. Is it the same story for you down there?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild, pretty crazy. It's really fast. I'm actually happy that it's been so clean this far. No cautions. So it's been pretty good.
So Mark Paget did beat you off of pit road there. He'll be starting up on the outside of Schaffner. Is that more of a benefit to you or more of a disadvantage to you on these restarts?
I think I'd rather be on the bottom here, yeah. I'm not totally upset he beat me off. I had a terrible pit stop there.
With all the things considered, while you're not in the bid for a podium position in the points for the regular Cup Series, obviously Super Cup Series is at this point well and truly in swing, and Phoenix is coming up next week with a strong performance at Vegas. Do you plan to maybe see if you can work your way a bit further up the standings of the Super Cup Series as well?
Absolutely, man. I like Phoenix. I'm pretty good there, so as long as I don't get wrecked. It's a tough track.
Well, fingers crossed then that you'll be having yourself a solid run in the Super Cup Series season and also throughout this final race in the regular Cup Series as well. Before I let you go, Greg, anybody you'd like to shout out for that G&G number 5?
All my boys here at G&G Racing. These guys do phenomenal work every week to make the cars fast. The president of my fan club, Elizabeth Mulligan, she's probably watching somewhere tonight. And you guys up in the booth, you guys do a great job.
Well, I can confirm that your number 1 fan from the Greg Wychinski fan club is in fact watching you out there tonight, so no pressure for you down on the racetrack.
Right.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Greg. We'll let you get back to work. We'll hopefully talk to you again at the end of the race.
Hope so. See you guys then.
Now, Brian, at the risk of making myself sound like a complete fool here, you'll remember I asked Greg if he plans to work his way up the standings a little bit further in the Super Cup Series season. I've just checked my notes, and outside of the drivers that have themselves locked in, he is at the top of the point standings. So he can't really work his way up much further because, again, he's at the top of what he can physically get at the moment.
That's definitely funny, Nolan, but I'm sure he's going to want to try to do his best he can here, maybe to lock his way into the playoffs. You want to get that win for sure. And a lot of times we've seen Greg Wychinski, he's such a fast driver, but he always has, bad luck, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it just seems like he always gets, everybody's punching bag out there, but it looks like he's definitely turning that luck around right now.
45 laps to go when we take the green flag here. Estimated 48 laps on the fuel run. So if they've been saved under this caution period, drivers should be able to go straight through and breeze to the end of this race without fuel being a concern. This could be the first race all season long where green flag pit stops are not at all going to be in the question. Josh Opner going to take us back to the referee, trying to hold the bottom from Kendall LeBron. LeBron having a solid run in the field so far, and he's trying to make him around the outside of Don Avery. Just in front of him, DeCiani and Al Kozlowski going at it, and now Greg Wyszynski going to have a solid run on Josh Opner. Oh, one car sliding in behind. That was Corey Cook, but not even far enough around where it would have brought the yellow flag even under normal conditions, much less in iRacing. So this is a solid run spot throughout this field as we get set to once again take another lap into the books.
And I'm surprised that, a lot of these guys haven't been getting as loose as they were in the stages before. As we see Greg Wyszynski really putting the challenge now on Josh Opner side by side. We'll lead for just a moment there.
And now tucks in line. Does he look for the bottom side? Not this time around. Josh Opner holds the race lead. Wyszynski opted not to make the move. And I have to say, that's a bit of a bold call. If I was Wyszynski, you've seen how much Opner's able to pull away. I would make the move wherever you can to try to see if he can't get a solid run. He'll try to lunge around the high side in 1 and 2, trying to keep the hammer down and carry the momentum around. And look at the closing speed between Wyszynski and Schofter. Wyszynski's looking low, and he's going to commit this time around. Battles on for the race lead with Greg Wyszynski taking it to Schofter. Oh, they almost banged doors through 3 and 4.
Yeah, getting very close. I'm surprised these guys are being as aggressive as they are right now, considering this is going to be the longest run we've seen all night. I mean, we've only seen a 25-lap run as our longest. As we see Mark Padgett actually taking the second spot away from Greg Wyszynski, so I think maybe Wyszynski definitely did not make that run work like he wanted to. Is now Padgett going to try to work his way up to Schofter? Schofter just able to benefit from that clean air. I mean, and wow, they got so close to bumping doors there. And I think because Greg Wyszynski probably had to lift to avoid hitting Schofter, that's probably why he lost that position to Mark Padgett. As we see some shaking up here, Matt DeCiani getting really tight.
I think got to lose, overcorrect, and that sent him tumbling back. And want to give a real quick mention here to the folks watching us on the YouTube chat. Apologies for the technical difficulties that we're having. You can always click over to twitch.tv/ISCA_racing. We are still live, and I can guarantee up and running in full force over on Twitch and, of course, on Facebook Live as well. So seems to be a problem. YouTube exclusively, still trying to work on that. We'll hopefully get back fully operational on YouTube in just a short order. But once again, twitch.tv/ISCA_racing. You keep tabs on what is happening live on track for the time being. Mark Padgett duking it out with Greg Wyszynski now. And the 0-2 car holds the bottom side through the tri-oval, pushing Wyszynski up towards the outside wall, down for 1. But Wyszynski is going to hold firm on the outside lane, not willing to yield, just has the nose in front, and will clear out of 2.
Yeah, what a run from Greg Wyszynski. Al Kozlowski going to try to follow through, but not able to get there. Mark Padgett closes the door now. Al Kozlowski on the bottom, going to try to go that way. And it looks like he's going to get it done. Padgett falling back to 4th.
Top 4 all single filed out. It's really back Oxford and Powell for 11th and 12th, where you got the first real side-by-side battle on track now at the moment.
Yeah, Oxford and Powell battling right now. Still side by side. John Mullins right ahead of them. And Kenny Powell looking to try to work his way through this field. I know he had a lot of confidence coming into this race, talking to him beforehand. See some smoke. What's going on? Oh! Somebody spun on the bottom. Kendall LeBron.
And that will bring out our first yellow flag on the night. And it was a big wreck as well for Kendall LeBron. Got tipped by Don Avery, and that sent the 16 car hard up into the outside wall. Going to see if we can't snatch another look at this one. And this was coming around through 3 and 4. You can see LeBron having to kind of wiggle around just a little bit. And you're going to watch Don Avery make a peek to the inside line. And it's going to be a small little tip. And then a second hit will send LeBron to the outside wall.
Yeah, I just think Kendall was not clear. Didn't have the momentum either, so just unfortunate to see that. I mean, I bet he thought he was clear, but definitely was not. I don't know. I think I would just put that on a racing incident there. But unfortunate to see Kendall LeBron have all that damage. When you get a hit on the wall like that, it definitely is not going to play out well for you. As he's missing his actual whole back end. His back bumper is gone.
Under the caution period here, we're going to see if we can take a quick break. We'll try to get our technical difficulties fixed. Hopefully we'll be with you again in just a moment.
ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at TheButtKicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.